All right, so we all learned about DNA in school, right? The blueprint of life. But what if I told you there's a whole other layer of control, like a secret communication system within your body that you probably never even heard of?
Yeah, that's right. Bioelectricity. It's kind of mind-blowing.
It really is. And today we're going deep on this topic. We've got some really cool research to unpack. Think two-headed worms, wasps that can manipulate plants, like seriously, sci-fi level stuff.
Oh yeah, we're going there.
But first things first, for anyone just tuning in, what exactly is bioelectricity?
So basically, it's all about these tiny electrical signals inside our bodies. They're happening all the time, constantly communicating between cells.
And these signals, they actually shape how our bodies grow and function.
Exactly. You see, our cells are full of these things called ions, and they carry an electrical charge. When these ions move across cell membranes, it creates these tiny electrical currents, and those currents, those are the bioelectric signals.
So it's like our bodies have their own electrical grid.
Kind of, yeah. And just like a power grid directs electricity to different parts of a city, these bioelectric signals tell our cells what to do, like how to grow, when to divide, even what kind of cell to become, like a heart cell versus a brain cell.
Okay, so let's get to the good stuff. The two-headed worm. I mean, how does that even happen?
Well, scientists have been studying these little flatworms called planaria. They're famous for their ability to regenerate, like you can cut them up into pieces, and each piece can grow into a whole new worm.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that. It's crazy.
Right. So what these scientists did is they messed around with the bioelectric signals in these worms. They tweaked certain ion channels, which are basically like gates that control the flow of ions in and out of cells.
And by changing the flow of ions, they change the electrical signals.
Exactly. And get this, some of the worms started growing two heads.
No way. Just from changing the electrical signal, so like it wasn't messing with their DNA or anything.
Nope, the DNA was fine. But here's the really mind-blowing part. They cut up those two-headed worms again, and guess what? The new worms still grew two heads.
Wait, hold on. So even though their DNA didn't change, they somehow remembered having two heads.
That's the idea. It's called cellular memory. It's like the cells themselves have a memory of their shape even when their DNA hasn't changed.
So like the bioelectricity is kind of overriding the DNA blueprint?
In a way, yeah. It's like the DNA is the blueprint, but the bioelectricity is like the construction foreman, interpreting the blueprint and directing the building process. And sometimes the foreman decides to make some changes.
Okay, my mind is officially blown. And this all ties into epigenetics too, right?
Definitely. Epigenetics is all about how genes can be switched on or off without changing the DNA sequence itself. And it turns out bioelectricity plays a big role in that. So it's this whole interconnected system.
So cool. Okay, let's move on to the wasp situation,
Mhm.
because that's just wild. How can a wasp manipulate a plant to grow a house for its babies?
Right. So these gall wasps, they lay their eggs on plant leaves. But they don't just lay the eggs, they also inject these chemicals into the leaf.
And these chemicals, they somehow tell the plant to build a gall, which is like a little shelter for the wasp larvae.
Yeah. It's like the wasp is hijacking the plant's growth program.
Eh,
But here's the kicker. Neither the wasp's DNA nor the plant's DNA has the instructions for building a gall.
what? No way. So where is that information coming from?
Well, scientists think it might be coming from the wasp's bioelectric signals. It's like the wasp is using its own bioelectricity as a kind of remote control to manipulate the plant's growth.
Oh, wow. It's like biological 3D printing or something.
It really is. It opens up all these crazy possibilities for how we understand development and evolution.
Okay, so all this is super fascinating, but let's get real. Can we actually use this bioelectricity stuff to like heal people?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And the answer is potentially yes.
Really? Tell me more.
So if we can figure out how to control these bioelectric signals, we might be able to do some pretty amazing things. Like imagine regrowing damaged tissues or organs even.
Wait, are you saying we could like regrow a heart?
I mean, it's still early days, but yeah, that's the kind of thing scientists are looking into. They're also exploring how to use bioelectricity to fight cancer.
How would that even work?
Well, cancer cells have abnormal bioelectric signals. So the idea is if you can reprogram those signals, you might be able to force the cancer cells to behave normally again.
That would be incredible. But this is all still pretty experimental, right?
Absolutely. But the research is moving fast, and the potential is huge. This could revolutionize medicine as we know it.
So after this deep dive, I'm kind of looking at my body in a whole new way. It's like there's this whole hidden world going on inside me.
Right. And if you think about it, if bioelectricity is so important for our health, maybe we should be paying more attention to it.
Exactly. So here's a question for everyone listening. Knowing this, would you change anything about how you take care of your body?
Hmm.
Maybe there are things we can do to, like, boost our bioelectric health that we haven't even thought of yet.
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. I mean, we know that things like diet and exercise affect our physical health. What about our bioelectric health?
Right. Could things like meditation or spending time in nature actually have a positive impact on our bioelectric fields?
Maybe. It's definitely worth exploring.
Food for thought, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's about all the time we have for this deep dive. Thanks so much for joining us.
My pleasure. It's been a great discussion.